Today I'm speaking with Professor Diane Dowling. She directed the this year's production of BMCC's Shakespeare Twelfth Night. Welcome, Ms. Professor Dowling. How are you?
You. I'm just fine. Thanks for
Great.
asking me here.
Thank you for being here. Now, you've achieved much success during your nearly 30 years of teaching at BMCC. And for most of those years, you've directed players in several dramatic classics. What made you choose Twelfth Night this time around?
Twelfth Night is a lot of fun. It's also very serious in some ways. And it seemed to me a very good way to give the students a chance to perform Shakespeare, which is very important to me, even though it's difficult and people shy away from it. I wanted people to have a chance. I want students to have a chance to do it and to see it. And that's why.
And what do you think makes this play relevant today? What do you believe is the essence of the play's message?
Well, let me answer the first question. What makes it relevant today? When I chose to do it, I was really about 5 years ago. And in part, it was out of a conversation with Professor Liz Cheney, who is our incredibly talented and marvelous set design teacher. And she does the set designs. And she really liked the play. So I thought, I think I want to do it because her energy talking about it was so wonderful. I had never been particularly drawn to it, but there are things about mainly the boy loves boy, girl loves girl. It's referred to as gender confusion in the play. You could talk about it like that, but I'm not so sure. I think of it as confusion. I think of it as real love. And the plays at those times, always had to reflect the correct political and social and religious background. And therefore, it's always going to end up in the kind of traditional way of man married to woman and so on. But in the meantime, while the play is going on, there's lots of experimentation happening and same-sex attraction. And I thought that was just a very useful thing for us to look at today and not play it as Shakespeare in the traditional Elizabethan sense. There's so many different ways to do Shakespeare that you don't have to, you can experiment in all kinds of ways. And I knew I wanted to do that. But the idea that love is real, love is love, very important, that people have to go through a process where they understand what their heart is feeling and not just jump to the conclusion of this is who I want and therefore I'm going to find a person like that. It doesn't really work that way. And the other reason I thought it was appropriate to do today, coming out of the pandemic, the play starts with death. And I myself have just recently lost my husband because of COVID and because he was ill and he got COVID. He didn't have the strength to go on. And going through the loss of him has been tremendous and a tremendous learning experience that will continue for the rest of my life. What I noticed is how even if you really want to be sad all the time, you can't be. Life will grab you. And even if you want to be happy all the time, you can't be. And that's really in the play, very deeply in the play. And I thought that more people than ever sitting in our audiences have experienced that in a very immediate way. And it would be worth going over, even though it's not direct necessarily. But that was an important reason for me.
So you feel the essence is being one's true self.
That being aware that we go up and down, we have ups and downs in life. We're not always going to win, and we won't always be losing either. And to listen to your heart, yes.
Now, when you talk about your students, how did they react, both acting and viewing the play? Was it intimidating for them, or were you able to connect with the characters and the early Elizabethan English language?
I adapted the play quite a bit. So that's the answer to your last question about being intimidated by the language. you have to be classically trained in Shakespeare to do it really well. Nobody expects our students to be classically trained. They're just starting to learn about acting. And I wanted to make an adaptation that used the Shakespeare, but took out a lot of the things that are just too hard for us to understand today. It doesn't matter how well you understand, it's always going to be a little confusing. It's really old language, old references, old jokes. So I updated it in that way. And yes, were people intimidated? The students who came to audition to some degree were intimidated. And I'm sure some people didn't come to audition because they went, oh, Shakespeare. And I'm sure some students didn't come to see the play because it was Shakespeare, but I hope they still watch the YouTube video and are pleasantly surprised. Shakespeare didn't do his plays to be one set way. He did them for the audience who was in the present right there and would get the jokes.
Right.
And that's where I went to in terms of trying to make this play accessible to everyone. There's so much pranking in the play, so many pranks. Everybody plays pranks. Everybody pretends to be somebody else at some point or other in the play. And I, made a lot out of that. And the actors really enjoyed it.
Yes, they did. I mean, the players were clearly enjoying the experience of being in this production.
Yeah,
Besides acting, how else did they contribute to the entire development of the spectacle?
songwriting, that was a big deal. I usually like to be very specific and choose my own music, but I couldn't find something that really fit for me. And so I worked with Andy Cohen, who's the sound designer, and taught some of the students in a sound design course and helped them understand, what do you really need to focus on when you're writing a song for lyrics in a play. They made the music and it was beautiful, I thought.
Absolutely.
And there are a number of other ways that people contributed: dance and just, coming up with ways to enhance what's on stage. I can't think of all the examples right now, but everybody who was involved, whether they were on stage or crew, contributed. No question about it.
Great. It was really great. Everyone really did come together and they put together a wonderful ensemble, very talented cast, singing and dancing. Now, are there any teachable moments that you took away from this production? Anything that stood out that you'll be looking out for next time when deciding how and what to direct for your next project?
Students learn from each other. And one of the most powerful things I can give as a director is the opportunity for the actors to learn and support each other and grow within that kind of space. So it isn't about my vision and my enforcing my vision, but us all collaborating and coming up with these ideas together. I would say I've learned that from the very beginning of my directing at BMCC. After all, I'm not here for putting on this great production for big audiences. This is for BMCC. It's for BMCC audiences, and it's for our students to learn about how to put on a production, what to go through in a rehearsal process, and so on. So I focused a lot on process, and I learned once again how significant the combination of people is to what ends up on the stage. Because, there are layers in a play. They are the layers of who is the actor in the first place playing this role, and who is this actor related to this other actor related to, so the whole circle there, they start with themselves. Just like in the play, you got to follow your heart. Which character are you the most drawn to within the story? There's also that between the actors in the first place, and they really cared about each other and supported each other, and that's what came across on stage. I'm sure of it. I don't know how that will help me with the next play, except to say that continues to be a really important aspect, that the students teach themselves in a way. I provide the structure, I provide some of the rules, I encourage them, I draw them out, I see what they're doing, but they are the ones who are making it happen. And that's where the most pleasure comes from and the most learning.
Well, thank you very much, Professor, for your guidance, for your professionalism, and for giving us wonderful theater that we can come to even on a BMCC level and bringing it to bigger and better heights each and every year. Thank you for taking the time to interview with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.